Lindsey Graham, long regarded an ally of Donald Trump, is now facing the unthinkable. In a stunning twist, the 47th and current President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, has taken bold action against the senator for his betrayal. This video reveals the behind-the-curtain power move that's sending tremors through Washington and could land Graham behind bars. Is this the biggest political backstab of the year? It all began with a whisper just after sunrise inside the silent halls of the Capitol. A young Republican aide overheard something chilling. Senator Lindsey Graham was spotted exiting a sealed-door meeting with 3 senior Democrats and 2 known rhino senators. The aide stood frozen. The phrase "big beautiful bill" was mentioned. And then Lindsey said something that felt like a blade. "This is our chance to slow him down. Trump's too powerful. We can't let him control everything." By noon, that whisper had reached President Donald J. Trump's ears. The president didn't react with fury. No yelling, no storming. Instead, he sat still in the Oval Office, gazed out the window and murmured, "Another Judas. I should have known." Outside, reporters buzzed about the looming vote on Trump's hallmark bill, a daring plan to reshape America's economy and security. No one guessed what was unfolding behind the scenes. No one sensed the storm coming. But that storm was already brewing, and it was heading straight for Lindsey Graham. At 2 p.m., the Senate floor was crowded. Tension was palpable. The big beautiful bill, Trump's boldest move so far, was up for a vote. Millions of Americans tuned in live. The bill promised secure borders, fair trade, job growth, and a crackdown on political corruption. It was more than policy. It was Trump's soul. Then it happened. Lindsey Graham voted no. Gasps rang through the chamber. Senator Josh Hawley dropped his pen. Senator J.D. Vance stared in shock. Cameras zoomed in as Trump, watching from a private room near the Capitol, slowly stood up. He didn't say anything, but his eyes told a different tale. Pain, fury, and something deeper. Resolve. Outside, Trump supporters cried, "He betrayed us." One woman sobbed in Texas. "My own senator stabbed our president in the back," said a man from South Carolina. Social media erupted. Judas Graham trended within minutes. But the worst was still ahead. President Trump had stayed quiet for too long. Now he was ready to speak, and when he did, America would never forget. At 6 p.m., a surprise alert flashed on every screen in the country. Breaking: President Trump to address the nation at 7 p.m. The White House press room filled immediately. Commentators scrambled for hints. No one knew what Trump might say, but insiders whispered, "He knows everything." At 7 p.m. sharp, the cameras rolled. Trump stood at the resolute desk, calm, firm, his American flag pin gleaming under the lights. "My fellow Americans," he began quietly, "tonight I speak not as a politician, but as a servant of the people. I must reveal the truth." He paused. Then, with the sternness of a father deceived, he continued, "Senator Lindsey Graham, once trusted, has turned his back on America. Behind closed doors, he plotted to destroy the big, beautiful bill. Not because it was wrong, but because it came from me, from you, from us." Gasps followed. Some reporters broke into tears. Trump continued, "He is one of several working to halt this movement, this mission to rebuild our nation. But hear me now, they will not succeed. I was chosen for this hour, and I will finish what we started." The room went silent. America held its breath. The moment Trump ended his speech, the world froze. But what came next shook Washington to its core. As reporters swarmed around him, the president calmly lifted a thick blue binder. On its front, classified internal correspondence, Senator Lindsey Graham. "This," Trump said, holding the binder in one hand and placing the other on the Bible that never left his desk, "is proof of betrayal." Inside were private emails, leaked recordings, and confidential texts, all showing how Lindsey Graham had been working secretly with Democrat leaders and 2 known Reno senators. They schemed to sabotage Trump's big beautiful bill. And worse. 1. Email read, "We must stop Trump's momentum. If this bill passes, he becomes unbeatable. Delay it, kill it, or spin the narrative." The betrayal wasn't just political. It was deeply personal. Trump had once defended Lindsey, even through scandal. Now it was clear Graham had never stood with the people. Tears filled the eyes of loyal Americans watching from home. A retired veteran in Arizona sank to his knees. A single mom in Georgia whispered, "How could he?" Trump didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The truth roared louder. The White House press room burst into questions. "Mr. President, are you saying Lindsey Graham committed treason?" Trump didn't blink. "I'm saying this. Anyone who conspires to betray the will of the people, to halt progress out of ego or corruption, will be held accountable. I made a vow. I'm keeping it." Back at the Capitol, Graham was nowhere in sight. His office locked. His staff mute. Aides whispered of a sudden escape to his home in South Carolina. Meanwhile, Americans were incensed. Tears flowed in churches, coffee shops, truck stops. A farmer in Ohio cut off his tractor and stared into the sky. "He lied to us," he muttered. "He lied to Trump." Senator J.D. Vance held a press conference. "What just surfaced breaks my heart, but we stand behind the president. We stand with truth." Trump exited the press room and entered a private session with the DOJ. What was shared behind those doors would soon rattle Washington to its foundation. But for now, the message rang clear. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a battle. By midnight, Washington was alive with panic and anger. A rumored leak spread like wildfire across social sites and news stations. A sealed federal arrest warrant might have been signed for Senator Lindsey Graham. Americans didn't know what to trust, but they sensed it. Something massive was coming. Outside the Capitol, hundreds of citizens gathered quietly, holding signs that read, "We stand by Trump, drain the swamp, expose every Judas." Trump, back in the Oval Office, stood beside General Michael Flynn and his legal team. He looked weary but composed. "The people must see that justice still exists in this country," he told his chief of staff. "No more secrets. It's time to bring light in." Inside a sealed DOJ file was something gravely serious. Testimony from a top insider. A former aide to Graham who confessed under oath that Lindsey had betrayed the bill for influence, promises, and personal benefit. It was damning, and meant the next American sunrise might bring handcuffs. At 4:23 a.m., a grainy video hit the internet. It wasn't shared by a news agency but by a low-level Capitol janitor. He had discovered an unattended be near the Senate meeting room hours earlier. Curious, he explored the files. What he found wrecked him. The footage revealed Lindsey Graham speaking in secret with 2 Democrat leaders in a famous Reno. The camera appeared to be hidden in a desk lamp. The sound was rough, but the message was unmistakable. "Trump's too loud, too powerful. If this bill gets through, we're doomed. We don't just stop the bill, we stop him no matter the cost." Shaking, the janitor uploaded the footage anonymously to a forum. Within minutes, it caught fire across the country. By dawn, the Lindsey leak was everywhere. Citizens cried as the betrayal unraveled in real time. At a diner in Wisconsin, a war vet crushed his coffee cup with trembling hands. A teacher in Tennessee called it the most heartbreaking thing I've seen in politics. In a tiny Alabama church, a pastor softly whispered, "God chose Trump for a reason, and now the devils show their faces." President Trump sat alone in the West Wing chapel. No cameras, no press, just darkness. He held a small Bible his mother had given him as a child. His hand shook as he turned the pages. A single tear fell down his cheek. "I trusted him like brother." He wasn't speaking to cameras now, he was speaking to God. "I gave Lindsey every chance, I defended him. I stood with him when others didn't. And this is what he gave me, betrayal." He stopped, then slowly stood. His voice steady again. "Lord, if this is the storm I must walk through, then bring it. But grant me the strength to shield these people." Outside, crowds were growing at the White House gates. Peaceful, prayerful, but heartbroken. They held candles. Some sobbed quietly. Mothers, veterans, truckers, even children. They didn't yell or chant. They prayed. Deep down they knew Trump was battling something darker than politics. This wasn't about legislation anymore. This was spiritual. At 9 a.m., the Department of Justice broke the silence. Attorney General Mark Meadows, now fully restored under Trump, stepped before the cameras. He didn't smile. He didn't greet the press. He simply said, The Department of Justice confirms an inquiry into Senator Lindsey Graham for conspiracy, obstruction. A federal process and breach of public trust is officially open. A warrant has been approved and sealed. Reporters gasped. The room burst into chaos, then Meadows dropped the final blow. We also have key testimony from a former aide, financial documents, and recorded communications between Senator Graham and hostile foreign agents. A reporter shouted, "Foreign!" Meadows nodded. "We will not name the country involved at this moment, but we are treating this as a serious national security threat." The broadcast cut abruptly. Viewers were stunned. Graham was still missing. But now America knew. This wasn't just betrayal. It was treason. As daylight broke over D.C., the nation held its breath. Outside the White House, the crowd had grown. Thousands now stood, not shouting, not raging, but praying. Old men, young kids, mothers with babies, all hand in hand on their knees. Some held Bibles, others waved flags, but every voice whispered the same name: Trump. Inside, Trump watched, through the window. His eyes weren't full of victory, they were filled with sorrow. "This isn't about me," he said softly to Barron, who stood nearby. "It's about them. These people, they believe, and that's why I must finish this." Barron nodded. "They know you're fighting for them, that's why they're still here." Trump's voice cracked. "I trusted Lindsey. I called him a friend. And now he wants to destroy the only hope we've got left." He looked at his son. "But we won't let evil win." Outside, the crowd began singing gently, a hymn, "God Bless America." And, for the first time in days, the president smiled. At 10:45 a.m., a call came into the White House switchboard. It was traced to a quiet estate in Charleston, South Carolina, a known private hideout of Senator Lindsey Graham. He'd finally been located. Trump took the call on speaker. Secret Service, Flynn, and Meadows were in the room. Lindsey's voice was unsteady. "Mr. President, this is spiraling out of control. I think we've both said things." Trump interrupted, his tone icy. "We didn't both say anything. You lied. You sold us out. You betrayed the movement. Don't compare your betrayal to my sacrifice." Graham tried again. "Look, maybe we can meet, talk this out, man to man." "No," Trump snapped. "I don't talk with snakes." The room fell silent. Then Trump added, "Turn yourself in, Lindsey. If you believe in justice, if you believe in this nation, then walk through the Capitol doors and face the truth like a man." The line went dead, and in that moment, even Trump's toughest aides wiped away quiet tears. The battle had turned personal. Across the nation, the movement surged. Patriots weren't just protesting now, they were demanding consequences. In Tulsa, veterans marched holding signs that read, "Trump stands, we stand." In Detroit, a mother hugged her daughter tight and wept into a news camera. "He gave us hope once more," and they tried to shatter him from within. By mid-afternoon, 17 states had submitted symbolic motions urging Lindsey Graham's immediate removal. Tens of thousands messaged Congress, churches rang their bells, and social media erupted with the phrase, "We choose Trump." Meanwhile, the Department of Justice quietly intensified the investigation. Agents uncovered a financial trail linking Graham's aides to offshore banking, lobbyist money, hidden deals, and private promises. It all started to click. He hadn't just betrayed the president, he'd betrayed the nation. Back at the White House, Trump stared at a handwritten letter from a 9-year-old boy that said, "Dear President Trump, please don't give up. We still believe in you. You are our lion and lions don't run." Trump folded the note and tucked it into his jacket. They've tried it all, but they forgot one thing. I don't bend. Behind closed doors, deep in the West Wing, a classified briefing was underway. President Trump sat surrounded by trusted allies, J.D. Vance, General Flynn, Kash Patel, and Kayleigh McEnany. No press, no cameras. Trump started it off. They thought killing the bill would be enough, but this isn't about policy anymore. It's about survival, America's soul. Cash slid over a manila envelope. Inside, a list of officials linked to Graham, some GOP, some not. "We found the web," Cash said. "It's larger than we imagined." J.D. Vance's jaw tightened. "They wanted you alone, but they forgot you're not alone. "We're in this together." Trump nodded, his voice calm but unwavering. "Then we strike back. Not with rage, not with payback, with truth." He looked each one in the eye. "We drain this swamp completely." This wasn't politics anymore, it was personal. And time was running out. By noon, Trump posted to Truth Social, just 8 words: "America deserves the truth. Tonight, 8 p.m., live." The web lit up. Cable shows reshuffled. Families skipped dinner. Millions waited. Before sunset, the White House stood silent. Cameras pointed at the podium. Then he entered. No teleprompter, no jacket, just Trump, holding the Constitution in one hand and a letter in the other. He started, "The betrayal we're up against isn't just about me. It's about all of you." He held up the letter. It came from a grieving mom in Iowa. Her son died for this nation. She wrote, "Mr. President, don't let them destroy what he died for." His voice cracked. "They tried to kill this bill and to weaken us. They tried to break me, to break you. But I swear I won't quit. Because your sons, your daughters, your lives are worth fighting for." Tears flowed in homes across the country. Even reporters froze. He wasn't reading a speech. He was spilling his heart. At exactly 9:17 p.m., the DOJ made it official. A red-sealed arrest warrant was opened for Senator Lindsey Graham. The charges: conspiracy against legislation, foreign collusion, abuse of authority, obstruction of public will. Anchors were stunned. This is the first time in modern U.S. history a current senator could face prison for betraying a president during legislation. One whispered live on air. Footage dropped of federal agents circling Graham's mansion. Helicopters buzzed. Above, armed officers locked the area. Still, no Lindsey, but Americans had seen enough. A retired miner in West Virginia saluted his TV. A trucker in Missouri cried at a rest stop. A teenage girl in Nebraska scribbled on her mirror, "Trump fights for us, we fight for him." The nation didn't feel torn. It felt united. And in the darkness of South Carolina, Lindsey's phone rang, but he didn't answer. By morning, U.S. Marshals reached Graham's estate. The place was deserted. Inside, ripped-up papers, 2 broken phones, a wiped laptop, a mug of half-finished coffee still steaming. He'd likely just slipped out. Authorities swept nearby airports. TSA was alerted. Border agents doubled up. Trump gave one direct order: he must face justice, not flee it. Homeland Security confirmed Graham's vehicle was spotted on a back route toward Savannah, Georgia. His driver, a longtime aide, had also disappeared. The press went wild. One headline blared, "Senator on the run." Meanwhile, Trump met with Americans who needed the bill Graham tried to kill. A factory worker whose job it would have saved. A nurse whose clinic would have grown. A child with cancer whose treatment funding was buried in the bill's end pages. Each cried. Each thanked Trump. And Trump? He barely spoke. Just squeezed their hands and vowed, "No betrayal goes unanswered." As D.C. spiraled into chaos, a quiet home in central South Carolina drowned in sadness. Lindsey Graham's 84-year-old grandmother, Mary Graham, sat on her porch watching it unfold. Her hands shook as she held a picture of little Lindsey, age 10, back when he dreamed of service. A local news reporter tapped gently on her door and asked, "Ma'am, do you have anything to say?" She stared into the camera, eyes puffy with tears. Lindsey wasn't raised to deceive. He was raised to fight for folks, not to abandon them. Her voice broke as she pointed at the TV screen, where President Trump was shaking hands with war veterans. That man, Trump, he's standing for something bigger than just himself. I don't care what people say. He's fighting for America, and I see that plain as day. The clip exploded online. People weren't just upset anymore. They were hurting. And for the first time, it wasn't about politics. It was about truth, trust, and emotion. At 3:30 p.m., Trump called an urgent press briefing. He stepped up to the podium with Barron beside him, and the letter from the 9-year-old still tucked in his coat. America doesn't run from problems. We face them head on. That's what this whole movement has always stood for. Then, he dropped a bombshell. I've ordered federal officials to declassify every communication between Senator Graham and foreign agents. The public deserves to know what was hidden in the dark. The room exploded. Trump continued, "This isn't about payback. It's about defending the Republic. If they can betray a sitting president, they can betray all of you. Outside, over 60,000 Americans had gathered in peaceful rallies across state capitals, holding candles, saying prayers, waving signs that read, "Truth over treason. Lions don't kneel. We stand with 47. The message rang loud. America's eyes were wide open. Lindsey Graham's clock was running out, and justice was closing fast. At 5:41 p.m., the first wave of declassified files dropped. Millions of Americans watched in shock as screenshots of emails, transcripts, and encrypted audio messages lit up their screens. These weren't rumors. They were facts. In one email, Graham told a foreign advisor, "If Trump wins this vote, we lose our hold. His momentum grows too fast. Kill the bill now, or we all go under." In another file, a voice message leaked with Graham chuckling on the line. "Let the country struggle a bit. Then they'll beg for moderate leadership." The country cracked. Phones flooded every senator's office. Hundreds of aides quit in shame. Protesters stood outside Lindsey's abandoned Senate office with candles and posters reading, "He lied, Trump stood." In living rooms across the country, people cried. Not out of rage, but because they finally saw how deep the betrayal cut. Trump, watching from the Situation Room, whispered, "It was never just politics. It was poison." And now, the cure had begun. At 7:32 p.m., sirens flashed across the runway at Savannah Hilton Head International Airport. Lindsey Graham had been spotted by cameras, alone, in a baseball cap and sunglasses, trying to board a private jet heading for the Cayman Islands. Federal officers surrounded the jet in minutes. Through loudspeakers, they called out, "Senator Graham, step off the aircraft with your hands visible. You are under federal investigation." Inside, Lindsey sat frozen. The engines were still, humming, but his future was already grounded. Back in D.C., Trump got the alert. He didn't cheer. He just gave a nod and said, "Let the people see this. Let them feel what truth really looks like." And they did. Chopper footage aired. Leave. America held its breath as Graham walked down from the plane, head bowed, hands raised. A veteran in Arkansas saluted his screen. A teen in Ohio whispered, "We got him." A grandmother in Florida wiped a tear and said, "Thank you, Mr. President." No applause, just relief. Justice wasn't on the way, it had arrived. As night fell, a storm rolled over D.C. But it wasn't just thunder. It was the sound of a nation finally waking up. That night, President Trump addressed the country one last time. No notes, just truth. Standing before the American flag, he stared into the camera. "I didn't want this. I wanted peace. I wanted us to build something together. But sometimes to rebuild, you have to dig out the rot." And Lindsey was rot. He paused. This wasn't revenge. It was protection. For you, your families, your children, your dreams. Across the country, families sat hand in hand. A widowed mother in Michigan gripped a photo of her son, lost in combat, and whispered, "He'd be proud right now." Trump went on. "We took down one traitor today, but the war's not over. This is just the start. Evil hides in power, and it fears only one thing: the truth." Then, with a steady tone, he finished, "God bless you. God bless our heroes. And may God always bless the United States of America." The screen faded to black, and in homes all over the country, the tears rolled like rain. Just after sunrise, Lindsey Graham was flown back to Washington in federal custody. He wore a simple suit, no tie, no press grin, just silence. At 9 a.m., the courthouse overflowed. Reporters lined the halls. Protesters and patriots packed the streets. But this time, there was no anger, only grief and grit. Inside, Trump wasn't there in person, but his statement was read by Attorney General Mark Meadows. "This isn't punishment. This is purification. America deserves more than hidden daggers and secret traitors." Lindsey sat still. Then the prosecutors played one final piece of evidence, a taped call where Graham said, "If we block Trump's bill, it weakens him. That's what they asked. And I did it." The courtroom gasped. One juror cried softly. Another covered their face, and for the first time, Lindsey whispered aloud, "I didn't think it'd get this far." But it did. And the people, they were watching. During a brief recess, Trump stepped away from the cameras and walked into a private room inside the White House. He reached into an old storage box and pulled out something folded in thirds. A letter penned by Lindsey Graham years earlier, back when Trump had just taken office. The note read, "Dear Mr. President, I'm honored to stand beside you. You're the only one with the courage to fix this broken system." Trump stared at the handwriting for a long while. He didn't rip it, he didn't speak, he just shook his head. "You could have stood with us, Lindsey. You could have been part of something greater." Then he looked at the camera recording for the National Archive. To every patriot watching this, never confuse fake loyalty for true courage. What we need now are men and women who never fold, never sell out, never cave to pressure. Outside the courthouse, a group of school kids held handmade signs. "We still trust you, Mr. President." And one little boy wrote in red crayon, "Keep fighting, Trump. You're our lion." Trump smiled through misty eyes. Then, "I fight till the final breath." By noon, the courtroom was packed for the final verdict. The jury returned in under 3 hours. The judge stood tall and read the decision aloud. On the charge of conspiracy to obstruct federal legislation, guilty. On the charge of collusion with foreign agents, guilty. On the charge of betrayal of public trust, guilty. The courtroom fell silent. Lindsey lowered his head. No tears, just quiet. Outside, millions tuned in live from hospital rooms, farmhouses, military bases, school cafeterias, and church halls. Some cried, others prayed. One elderly man in North Dakota dropped to his knees and whispered, "We're finally cleaning house." Reporters asked Trump for a response. He stepped forward and said only 5 words, "The people won this battle." And indeed they had, because this wasn't just about justice, it was about healing. And America had finally started to breathe again. After the verdict, something surprising happened. Lindsey Graham requested to speak. Not to the press, not to the court, but directly to the American people. Cameras rolled as he stood at the podium in handcuffs. His voice cracked. "I lost my way. I let fear and power sway me. I betrayed a man who once called me brother, and I betrayed you." He looked down, trembling. "My father always told, Briti, if you ever lie to the people who trust you, you've already lost your soul." I thought I could outwit the storm. I didn't realize the storm had a name, and it was Trump. America watched, stunned. Some forgave, others couldn't. In a living room in Kentucky, a Trump supporter cried uncontrollably and whispered, "He finally told the truth." But it's too late. And in the White House, Trump stood alone at the window. He didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He just said softly to himself, "This is what happens when power replaces principle." The lesson was clear, and America heard it. The very next morning, President Trump made a bold decision. He reintroduced the big beautiful bill to Congress. This time, stronger, cleaner, and backed by millions of citizens. This wasn't just legislation anymore. It was a statement. In every part of the country, people flooded town halls and local offices demanding lawmakers support it. Farmers in Iowa waved American flags over their crops. Factory workers in Ohio held signs, "Pass the bill, protect our future." Veterans marched in silence, holding Trump banners with the words, "He fought, now we stand." In D.C., lawmakers scrambled. The opposition, shaken by the fallout from Graham's betrayal, quickly crumbled. Within hours, both chambers were forced to call an emergency vote. At 8 p.m., Trump addressed the nation. "This bill was never about me. It was about you, your jobs, your hopes, your kids. They tried to bury it, but we brought it back, and this time it will rise." Cheers echoed across America. People didn't just watch. They believed. Midnight came. The Capitol was packed. Tears filled the eyes of Trump loyalists sitting in the chamber. As the final vote count was read aloud, the big, beautiful bill had passed, 71 to 29. The room exploded. Reporters wept. Staffers embraced. Even some old skeptics stood and clapped. Back home, Americans cried with joy. Elderly couples held hands. Small-town diners played patriotic tunes on the radios. Kids danced around TV sets shouting, "Trump did it! Trump did it!" Inside the chamber, President Trump stood and slowly walked to the center aisle. He didn't raise fists. He didn't talk to cameras. Instead, He turned to the gallery, placed a hand over his heart, and gave a simple, silent nod. A mother in sight, Oklahoma wept. He kept his promise, even when it broke his heart. America hadn't just won a political war, it had reclaimed its soul. It was early morning when President Trump stepped onto the South Lawn. No crowd, no stage, just stillness and sunrise behind him. The White House stood tall, not just a building, but a home of triumph, heartbreak, and resilience. He stood at the top step, hands folded, eyes scanning the horizon. "We came through fire," he said quietly, not to reporters but to himself. "They tried to bury us, but we grew." At that moment, Barron stepped beside him and handed him a small box. Inside was a hand-sewn American flag, mailed by a family in Montana with a short note. "Thank you for not quitting." Trump closed the box softly, his voice steady. "We didn't just pass a bill. We exposed the darkness. We reminded America what truth looks like." As he turned to walk back inside, the flag flew higher, and the nation finally exhaled. In federal holding, Lindsey Graham requested a final interview. He looked drained, pale, hollow. The reporter asked, "Do you regret it?" Lindsey didn't blink. "Every second. I betrayed a man who trusted me. I betrayed my own name, but most of all, I betrayed the people." He paused. "Trump never gave up on them. Not when it got hard. Not even when I stabbed him in the back." The clip aired nationwide. Even Trump's loudest critics fell silent. One former Democrat congresswoman tweeted, "I never liked the man, but watching this unfold, maybe we were wrong. Maybe he was meant for this moment." That night, churches held vigils. Candles flickered. Kids prayed for their country. And many who had doubted finally believed. In a home in Mississippi, a father hugged his daughter and said, "You'll tell your kids about this week, because it's when the people took their country back." The next day, President Trump signed the big, beautiful bill into law. Surrounded by veterans, farmers, teachers, and children, no lobbyists, no elites, just the people. He stood behind the desk, placed a hand on the Bible, and said, "We faced betrayal, but we stood united, and now we rise together." Across the country, bells rang, flags waved, and strangers embraced in the streets. And as tears fell in homes from Texas to Michigan, one truth echoed louder than any headline. America had healed. The lion had roared. The people had chosen. The light had returned. If this story moved you, if it made you cry, reflect, or believe in something bigger, don't scroll away. Please like this video to support truth. Comment below what moment hit you hardest, and subscribe to this channel if you still believe that justice, courage, and loyalty matter in America. Together, we're not just watchers, we're the voice. And this channel is only getting started. God bless you, God bless President Trump, and God bless the United States of America.